uses technology to focus on bridging the menstrual education and gender equality gap in Pakistan. We go to different schools to conduct pilots where we use our chatbot to teach girls, and we play games and conduct different activities.
Okay.
Aurat Raj is headed by Sabah Khalid, who's the founder of the startup, and Jaya, she's the technology lead. They both joined us in our broadcast, so I, yeah, I just unmuted them. Let's, I think they're in the chat. We can't see. Okay, there. You can see them in the chat. Okay, so the purpose of this call is to bring together different perspectives from different backgrounds as femtech innovators, as women, as change makers, to talk about this whole pandemic. So before we begin our discussion, can you all please give a short introduction about yourselves, about your startup, the people you impact, your community, and where are you from? Swarnima, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Hi, Swira, and hi everyone. Jaya and Sabah, who are probably watching us from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm Swandima, and I am currently at home. So I'm the founder of TCare. It's a platform for personalized care, curated shopping, and our focus is basically on building the between policy and practice when it comes to rights-based, science-backed, solutions to women's healthcare. We also organize FemCon, which is India's first women's health festival. We've had two editions of it, and that's what we mainly do. I am personally also in personal capacity. I'm a Women Deliver alumni, so I collaborate with a cohort of 300 public health advocates on making healthcare for girls and women accessible around the world. And I'm part of the Global Shapers community in New Delhi, again leading gender and mental health. And I'm so glad to be in the midst of all of you because there's so much to learn and borrow from one another. So really looking forward to this. And special hi to Gitanjali, um, because I love her.
Oh God, so much of love display. I need it more in this time.
Not to PD, yeah. Now that we're at home, we don't know how else to express our.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gitanjali, tell us a little bit
I
about yourself.
Yeah. Hi everyone, and it's so inspiring to meet and see all of you, and all the live audience that is watching us. Of course, thank you, Jaya and Sabah, for organizing this. This is really, really, I must say, path-breaking initiative. And yeah, the problems faced by both the countries are same. It's a global problem. The population, the geography, a lot of other things, the entrepreneurship spirit, everything is quite same. So it makes sense for us to come together, and also as women entrepreneurs to think. What I do is I'm founder of Fertility Dost. Fertility Dost is a platform. It's India's trusted and only platform for women and couples who are going through fertility related issues, hormone issues, period issues, and similar things. We work with them through counseling and through bridging the gap between the doctor and the patients, and building awareness, and also because it's a socially taboo subject, as is all other subjects in the femtech sector. We try closely to work around those areas. So yeah, that's what we do as Fertility Dost. Yeah, so Adiman, I love you too.
Okay, can you please tell a bit about yourself?
Okay, hi everyone. It's so good to be here and meet all of you, first of all. So basically, I run Free Circle. I'm the co-founder of Free Circle. My other co-founder is right here. He's my husband. He's my husband as well, and he's in the room right now, not here. I thought all ladies are joining, so I'm gonna join solely. So yeah, Recircle is basically we are, I'd say, the first registered Pakistani company that is providing menstrual cups to the women of Pakistan. And if I could share my screen right here, I can show you guys the website as well. That is,
Yeah.
okay, it's not letting me share screen somehow. Entire screen. Okay, I think now it's done. All right, so
You can share
basically,
the link on the chat.
okay, sahi hai. All right, I can do that. So basically, this is Recircle. If you can see my screen, or if you can't, I'll just drop the link here. Can't go to the chat somehow. Okay, technology. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Recircle is basically, as I said, we're providing menstrual cups to the women of Pakistan. I'd say we're not as much relevant to tech as you all, because you're providing solutions that are tech based, but we are basically providing this product online, and that's the only way that we are associated with tech. Apart from that, we also give, we write blogs, and also include blogs from other people on our website related to the period taboo. So other than just selling menstrual cups, we have a whole goal of making menstruation normal in our society and breaking the taboo that surrounds period. So usse related, we then conduct sessions in colleges, in schools, in universities, and all of that is done to basically make period normal in Pakistan. So yeah, that's what.
That's wonderful. Sadaf, can you give a short
So,
introduction?
yeah, hi everyone. So, I'm so happy to see all of you. So, I'm founder of High Ground. So, basically, we are a web-based platform from where we provide the accessibility of hygiene products at doorsteps. We are not just only provide the services where women can buy their hygiene products, but we are also working in small communities in villages and rural areas, especially in schools. We go there and we talk about health, hygiene, and nutrition. And we try to reduce the taboo and stigma around menstruation, and also provide the accessibility of hygiene products in schools, because we all know, like, the young girls cannot afford the pads on their own. So we go there and we talk about that, and we try to reduce the taboo and stigma. And we also provide the accessibility of cheaper sanitary pads, and they can buy and maintain their health hygiene in a better way. Thanks.
Yeah, Harim.
Hi everyone. It's so exciting to see all of you, and you're doing amazing work, everyone, each one of you. I was aware of Sadaf, and I had some idea about Recircle because of the other Sadaf. But Gitanjali and Swarnima, it's so good to see you guys. And I run a little brand called Dot. It's spelled DOTTE, and I basically combine the word replacing period as a dot and then doting on you. So it's a surprise comfort subscription box that we change the theme every month, and it's announced in advance. You can sign up in like a month in advance or whenever, and it gets delivered to your doorstep near the date, whatever you choose when signing up. I started this off basically to make, because in our part of the world, yes, and in the entire world, we've come leaps and bounds in terms of being able to talk about pads and periods and all of these things in public. I mean, from our nannies and dadis forbidding us to touch achar during our periods, we've come to a place where we have billboards of brands out there, and we are talking openly about periods, and we're talking openly about pads. Fair enough, it is still taboo in a lot of places, and people like Sadaf and yourself and all of these other people are doing a great service with Aurat Raj and everything. All of these people are doing, but with Dot, I wanted to take that a step ahead and remind women how we need to empower ourselves during our period, because spiritually it is a heightened experience, and the more you perceive it negatively, barring any physical issues or any health issues you have, the more you're literally inclined to foresee, the better your experience is, and you are at your creative zenith through your period. So my intention solely and wholly was to bring in that aspect. And within a few months of starting my brand, I started getting the words coming from consumers themselves that, oh, this makes me look forward to my period, or this little box, this makes me excited about having my period, and this has never happened in my life, and stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to achieve, and that I think it has grown exponentially. I really just started it off as an in and out brand. I started it out just to test the market, see if there's any need or any love for such a product in the market. But then 2 years strong, we're still on it, and we are actually researching and working towards relaunching later this year for global deliveries and everything. So yeah, that's where we are. And meanwhile, I have also started another women-centric thing. I've started studying to become a certified lactation consultant, because there's no lactation consultant in Pakistan, not a single practicing one. The people who were certified, they've left Pakistan, they're not here. So in these times when I can't, so I've been counseling women for over 2 years now. But in these times, in quarantine and during all of this time, what I'm doing is that I'm allowing them to reach out to me via Facebook or Twitter or wherever they can send a private message. And I'm really just, I'm so bogged down with that sometimes dot ka kaam takes a backseat, because there's so much coming in with everything closed down and zero access. New mothers are in such a difficult place regarding their health and their hygiene and what they need to do in terms of lactation and what issues they come up with, they come against. So yeah, that's basically a little crux of what I do.
Wow, you all are doing such amazing work. Now that the intros are done, we will begin with our discussion on Femtech in the time of Corona. Femtech is any technology that improves women's health. COVID-19 has become our new reality. So my first question to you all is, how are you all doing? How has this affected you? And what kind of strategies have you come up with, developed to keep your mental health intact? Anyone can take this question.
Yeah, so I'll go first.
Okay.
For us as a community in fertility dose, it has been a tough phase, because primarily because IVF or treatments which are related to fertility are non-elective. So as per the government, they doctors have postponed it, they have stopped it in between. So there's a lot of anxiety because it is a high ticket treatment which costs about somewhere between 1 to 2 lakh rupees. And if a normal middle class couple has paid up the money and they were looking forward to it and they had prepared, and IVF is something which takes a lot of months of preparation. So they had prepared for it and they were about to go for the treatment and they were stopped in between because of all of a sudden this thing happening, and with no clue of when it is going to get over and when they will be able to resume the treatment again. It became initially for the first week, it was a high panic situation. Then we have high risk pregnant moms in our group, and these ladies are supposed to go for frequent injections and medicines and scans. And because it is high risk, you need to be connected with the doctor all the time, and physical checkups are required. I recently had a call from a panicked pregnant lady in her second trimester, and she has to go for ultrasound, which was told to her a month back. But now she has no clinics nearby which are open, and doctors are not attending, asking her to come back later, and she was scared. So these kind of situations are happening, and it is a moment of lot of scare. Mental health is, of course, it's one thing. New moms, a lady is her delivery date is on 28th of April, and she's waiting to see what will happen with this quarantine time. So yeah, so these are the situations that are happening. What we are doing in terms of managing mental health and other health is we are doing a lot of counseling sessions. We are doing everything for free, and we are doing awareness building, information building. We are getting the experts through, of course, social media, Facebook, Insta, and all these things. And we have just launched a helpline where anybody can call and speak to our counselors for free, even if it is just to have a chat and vent out. So yeah, these are few of the things that we have started to do, and we are seeing some good results within a week. People are trying to calm down, but there is, of course, there is a huge amount of panic, anxiety, and stress in the overall environment.
And what about you personally? In regards to mental health?
Personally, don't ask me. I am working in mood swings. Every day I gear up and say that, okay, today I will read this book. I can show you I am having this huge bundle of books here. I'm supposed to read this all books, but hardly I'm able to read other 2 pages, and then I get back कि क्या होगा पढ़ के, बंद ही तो है, शाम को पढ़ लेंगे, कल पढ़ लेंगे. And then in the evening, people like you or in our group, we do some live things. Everything is, so I'm trying to do more and more live, so that keeps the momentum up, and that also gives me a chance to put up my lipstick and eyeliner.
Yeah, dressing up helps. And what about the rest of you all? How are you all doing in dealing with the situation?
I'm good. I can go now. So basically, there are since our primary focus is on selling menstrual cups, that cannot happen anymore because deliveries are now not happening because of the lockdown. So we've given that a backseat now, and we're focusing more on our online presence. And there's a project that we're currently working on with PCF as well, which basically involves, so what they were doing is that they wanted to educate a village in Saidpur, women there, about menstrual hygiene. MHMs related, they were basically educating young girls and their mothers there. So that can physically not happen anymore. So they've asked us to shoot videos about how to use a menstrual cup, and also about MHM generally, about certain topics. So we've recorded those videos, and we're going to be sending those videos for the project to be moved forward. So that's something that we have been doing, like instead of actually going out and meeting the kids and their mothers and educating them about MHM and about how to use a cup, we are recording all of that. So it is challenging to actually show on video how to use the cup, and unless you've had an experience talking to someone, it is very challenging actually, because I don't know what kind of questions will come, and it's not an interactive thing anymore. But trying our best there with the project to continue. Then also, I feel like we're giving ourselves a break here as well. I feel like, deliveries being stopped and everything. We just want to think about Recircle as a whole, where we want to go with it. So just establishing our long-term goals here as well. And yeah, that's about it.
And how are you doing in regards to mental health?
Yeah, I think I feel like first 15 days I was really relaxed, because so I teach as well. From there I got a break too, so I just felt at peace. And I was like, I'm still having online classes and all, but still I was like, this is the time to take care of myself. But now I think this is my 21st day of quarantine, completely social distancing. So now I'm just thinking, okay, when will this be over? But still trying to keep myself busy here and there. So yeah, just taking it slow. I think I'm getting used to the pace right now, which is slow.
That's important, getting used to the pace.
Yeah.
Harim, what about you?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Like I mentioned, we were already in a phase where we were revamping. So hamara backend ka kaam, it's not really affected as much. So that's going on, because even the developers and people who are working on the website and everyone, they're still working. So we and in any case, they were in Karachi and I'm in Lahore. So we used to work from a remote perspective. So in any case, that's not changed much. Just that I have suddenly gotten a little more time, surprisingly, to get a lot of things done, which I had put on the back burner. For instance, my team was a lot at my back to start delegating things about regarding Dot itself. The other brand, Anesi, that I run, that's already completely delegated. I really just look over things, but mostly my team handles everything. Dot, the curation of boxes and the regular stuff, I was usually on top of it. I'm really excited to see that my team is really happy, like, oh, now we have time, now can you teach us how to do this or how to do that and stuff like that. So I think we're gonna come out the other end much stronger. And about Lactation, the other organization that I'm setting up, the lactation consulting and all of that, like I mentioned, I'm doing the free of cost consulting online. People are inboxing me, they're emailing me regularly. I blog by the name of This Lahori Mom, and I write a lot about breastfeeding and stuff, and other momming stuff there as well. But one thing additional that I've started doing two things additional that I've actually had a half written book about breastfeeding. So I've really picked that up, and I'm probably going to be completing that very soon. The other thing that I'm doing is that a friend and we go live, like Gitanjali mentioned, that actually makes us get up and get out of our pajamas and, just liven up a bit by force. So we do it 6 p.m. Pakistan time every evening, and we go over the Pakistan numbers for Corona, and then a little about current affairs and politics and what's happening in which province, and what are the updates, and what are the hygiene issues that we need to take care of. And so we go over a lot of important stuff about Corona, and it's a discourse between me and Maham. So that's what we do every evening. So these are the newer things that I've started doing.
Where do you go live?
We go live at a page. It's called Our Take Official. It's on Facebook. We really just made it last week. So so it's really new, because see, Corona is really new, and like Basma said, that we're like reduced to our houses for like over 3 weeks now. I'm getting more time because my husband's now at home, right? So he also teaches. He teaches at LUMS, and so he's doing online classes too. So, but the times that he's not online or he's not in a meeting, like right now, so my daughter is with him, which is a very alien thought. Sadaf has visited my house. Sadaf has come to my place. She knows how it's like. So Sasi is part of her work. She goes everywhere. She does everything with me. So right now, Sasi is with her dad, and I think that's giving me a lot more sukoon and a lot more to do. So I'm with the caveat that this is a privilege that we have to feel relaxed in these times. We don't have to worry about food or income or those issues, because there are so many people that whose kids are sleeping on an empty stomach and all of those things that we forget when we are. So I keep reminding myself to not be too excited and too happy about this, because there's that side as well. So with the knowledge of my privilege, I would like to say that this is the time that I find myself very productive.
Sadaf, what about you? How are you doing, and how are you dealing with mental health?
So on the start, like, I was very panicked because I am not used to about like work with my Zoom. So it's very hard to give them the task and to follow up, like, because I mostly work in an office or sitting physically in a space. But yeah, with the passage of time, we are used to with that, like, because we have to work on that. We never stop on that, because in that current time, we have faced a lot of challenges regarding logistically, because all like provinces are locked down and you cannot deliver. And we used to other means how we can serve our customers, and we are continuing on our delivering process in that time. So but we still are not, providing deliveries in sense. So that's a quite challenging still for us. But in that time, we learned one thing, like, it's a good time to self-evaluate yourself as a team, as a leader, or as a person, even though, you have much more enough time to make.
I think it got stuck. Connectivity का issue हो गया होगा. Let's give her a minute. Let's see if she comes back.
Who are in village, village sectors. So it's very hard for me, like, to evaluate such things. What will be happen next after when the lockdown has been opened? So how many women having, especially because I'm also working in rural areas and we are working with 7 schools or the 7 like the cities in Punjab. So I was thinking about how many young girls having a problem regarding menstruation, either they get their product or not, and if they have infection, have they courage to share with the other, even though their mothers, to speak about such things. So I like the point of Harim, like she said, like we are very privileged to sit in a home and we don't have any worry about food and like lot of stuff. But many like people, even we are working for a woman or a female or a girl, it's very hard for the other people to survive, even though because they don't have any food. And we are talking about like the menstrual stuff. I know it's very important for all of them, but their concern is right now the food. It's very alarming for like I think so all of us, like how we can help अपने इर्द गिर्द किस तरह हम एक दूसरे की मदद कर सकते हैं, like we don't have any maid right now, how they are running their household now, and some people are very shy and they don't say from the mouth like we need that money or we need food, even though, and how we can get them. So it's our responsibility, we ourselves, we think about that and we will help them. So as a mentally, I'm very upset right now, like because we try to help people and on our behalf we do that and we are doing that, but we cannot fulfill the other people or serve the others.
Yeah. So to that, I would like to say that there's a lot of, and this is the kind of stuff that we talk about in our daily life in about Corona that Maham and I are doing. And Maham is in Islamabad, I'm in Lahore. We come online on Be Live and we go on our page on Facebook. But this is what the kind of stuff that we discuss, because both of us are very active in with regard to charity initiatives around us that are taking care of it. The first thing that we would, for anyone who's watching this, we would like to emphasize is that do not, if you want to donate or if you want to work towards this, do not step out, go take a truck and stand there, because then people flock and that actually facilitates spreading of corona and spreading of the virus instead of helping the cause. Maybe reach out for organizations who are already doing stuff, and there are plenty. Even on my blog, I've put up a live document and I keep adding whatever initiative I come across. It's a nationwide list. You can go there, you can figure it out, you can find whatever you want in terms of their addresses or their bank details or whatever you can do. If you want to help, there's an entire list there. There's a lot that a lot of people are doing. I just feel that a lot of it is not well directed. So we all want to help, but we all want to help in a way that is not detrimental to the cause. So Sadaf, if you're interested and if it's making you upset that you want to do something, please go have a look. I'll share a link of that with you. Okay?
You can share it here as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I will also share in my friend list, because many people don't know what is the accurate channel. Like we are donating money, is they going in that good direction right now?
It's a list of,
That's
honestly,
very,
it's a list of charity organizations. It's nothing of it is related to me or any of my ventures. These are just other charity organizations that I trust. These are people who are out there who are working, and it's really just a list, and you can choose from that wherever you want to donate.
So there are both goods and bads of this virus.
Thank you.
Like some of us are taking some time to learn, to take a breather. And for some of us, it's just an anxiety-ridden phase. But this pandemic is affecting all women in very different ways. Like if you see in terms of class even. How do you think it's having an effect on women, like in terms of the burden of chores, household responsibilities? There are also reports coming of domestic violence that could increase, child caring, and then there's the pregnancy issues as well, as Gitanjali said. So how do you think it will affect women, this whole pandemic?
If you don't mind, I'll go first on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one. Actually, there was a UN report that came out, I think just yesterday or day before, that there's a lot of, so what's happening right now is that, whenever there is a challenge of this kind, everything is getting affected. It's not just business, it's the way we are dealing with public health, the way the global response is to public health. So, as is the case with funding, what happens is that funding goes from one place to another. And there was a huge concern that global funding in public health will go away from sexual and reproductive health to mitigating crises. And in India, what happened was that because we were on complete lockdown for 21 days, there was an error on the part of the government where sanitary napkins and other menstrual hygiene products were not listed as essential items whose manufacturing will continue. So thankfully, some minister or somebody, they saw it and they flagged it to the government, and now it has resumed. But this is what happens, and I think this is where people like us do and have to sort of come in. Is that when it comes to women's health, then yeah, the discourse, the needle is moving. The discourse is getting better with the passage of time, with the involvement of more and more women. But systemically, it is a blindsided sort of space. For instance, when Gitanjali spoke about how women who are preparing for IVF, it is a big thing. Like it is absolutely. It's like giving a few years of your life to get this thing done. Like right from shortlisting what you do, the doctors you will meet and everything else, and taking care of your diet and everything. You won't believe that ever since coronavirus became this global pandemic, in our community, the number of women who are reaching out to us who are not yet mothers, who are saying, should we bring children to this world? you know and this is something that maybe is temporary, maybe like after the panic will subside, people's minds will change or whatever it is. But the point is that there is a lot that is riding on women, whether it's their mental health, like Musfira said, that a lot of them are caught in domestic abusive situations. A lot of them are increasingly facing an increased burden of domestic chores. There are mothers with special needs children. There are new mothers who have just delivered. There are women who might have their due dates soon. And there are also women who are facing chronic invisible illnesses like endometriosis, fibromyalgia, so much else. So there is a whole spectrum. And somehow what has happened is that these are either considered elective or non-essential, which they are in that sense. I mean, people are not dying out of it, that is true.
Yeah.
It is still a huge burden. So what we've done is we have come up with three resources under this category called Women Health and COVID-19. One which is looking at these emergency FAQs, which includes pregnancy, childbirth, breastfeeding, IVF. The other is just mental health, and the third is running a lean kitchen. I know that it sounds lame for a lot of people, but there are so many people in middle classes, low middle classes, who don't know how to just like feed four people, five people, six people without any help. So while we don't, sort of do the recipe thing a lot on our website, but we came up with an ebook today about running a lean kitchen. So I think then comes the question of women business owners, which is already, women are already underfunded, gender is underfunded, and within the category, women's health is even more underfunded.
Yeah.
So we are in some trouble. So what we need to, I think, focus on as women business owners working on women's health, we have to use this time to look at cash flows. We have to be cash positive. Because if you're increasing expenditure and you're not looking at any inflow of cash, then you're in a bit of a, we have to just think about it. So a few things that I think we can all do. One is what Hareen said very clearly, that I think it has helped me personally as well. There is a lot of guilt of privilege going around. We know that we are privileged. There is a lot of guilt. There's a lot of helplessness because we cannot just go out and do what we can and what we, just comfort people or whatever. So, what we should do is definitely look at organizations that have been doing work on the field and donate to them. Just donate, and donate. And the second thing is that the second thing that we really have to do is be part of communities that are also like helping people which are under-resourced communities, whether it is with clothing or it is with menstrual hygiene products or whatever. I feel that this really helps mental health as well. When you feel that, like you are really, really complicit and you really, really account the outcomes of coronavirus plays out. So I think it will really help us cope in a much better way as well.
I'd like to add a little thing here to what Swarnima just said. I think it's very important to also understand that most of the women workforce are employed in unofficial work. Like, for instance, I'm not going to say unofficial. Unofficial is probably the wrong
Informal.
word.
Unorganized.
It's
Unorganized.
Informal.
yeah. They're either self-employed, so they're running businesses from their homes or smaller cohorts or whatever, or they are, if you go lower in class and all of that, the social strata, they are working in homes. So these are not places that will give them like a provident fund or a gratuity or any job security or anything of that sort. So we have to understand that as opposed to men, women are more exposed in such a calamity or such an environment. So there's another website called ticketwala.pk or ticketwala.com, where small businesses in Pakistan, and I just come across these things randomly. I don't know who is running this, but it's just that what they're doing is they are selling something like an IOUs. So for instance, if someone has a salon, they can put up like a ticket amount of 5,000 or 10,000 or 4,000 or 2,000. You can go and buy that. And once COVID-19 pandemic calms down and the lockdown opens, you can go and get it redeemed. So there are a lot of businesses that are going. So maybe if there's nothing of the sort going on in India, maybe you guys can look into it and get someone to get something of the sort going, because we have to understand that the business running women who are running businesses from their home, whether it's technology or other product based businesses, they've really taken the blow really, really bad. And we need to understand that these are like a few things that can probably help them. This is how they're handling it here in Pakistan, and I for one have bought like a few tickets for a salon. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think a very important thing to do at this time is to collaborate, and I strongly believe in the power of collaboration, and not only as a personal person, but also as a startup or our enterprise. The more we collaborate, the better it is. I am already trying to collaborate with, there's a group which is called Mental Health COVID Task Force Fighters, and then there is another group of women. So instead of just doing your own work, and like we are doing right now also, but we should do more collaborative work, more action plan. And Swarnima rightly said, cash flow is an important thing. But then as of now, yes, the economic slowdown is there. This cash flow thing has to be deliberated upon. So I am taking this time, and I also want to put it out for other women entrepreneurs during this time, is focus on building yourself. This is the time when you can, strategize, plans, look into your accounts, see where you can do best, call people, network, collaborate, and be empathetic. Why we are trying to do one live session, or we are trying to be creating a lot of positive vibes in our community. The only reason is that we want to show to our community and women at large, or people, or other people, maybe investors for that matter, or other people in our industry who are watching us. And trust me, I got about 2-3 calls in last week from industry stalwarts saying that, okay, good, you're doing good work. So they are watching, everybody is watching how you are dealing with this time, and not only you, but how you are leading your community during this time. So all of you, I see, are very, very strong women leading a community and enterprise, and also encouraging a lot of other entrepreneurs. So I would say that lead your community in a very empathetic manner. I think, as you were saying, guilt of privilege, this is the best we can do at this time. The compassion is more than money. Of course, there are a lot of crores of money coming and going, and everything is happening, but what I can do is to be compassionate. And I think I would like to end with that.
Vasma and Sadaf, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think everything is pretty much covered, so I don't really have anything to add
Okay.
here. Yeah.
So, Swarnama, you said about being cash positive. Can you explain a little bit more on that? How can startups be cash positive?
So actually, this requires a little bit of context, especially when we're talking about femtech. I think when we're looking at this term femtech or this industry of femtech, we really have to review what that means in the South Asian context. Now,
Yeah.
my learning has been as an Indian entrepreneur who is positioning her startup firmly within the middle classes that the user out there has problems that can be solved more with intuition than technology. The user out there who has these daily problems, which are mostly cultural in nature, even in the medical space, it is mostly cultural in nature, which is mostly about awareness and ignorance and all of that. They are very tech agnostic. For them, it does not matter whether it is AI or AR or all those. Like that's for us. That's for the industry or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, I think what has happened with me as a huge transition, not only during coronavirus and even before that, I've had the privilege of being part of some great programs, at Harvard recently, and that it was transformative. And I think the biggest learning for us is to reframe the problems in a very tech agnostic way. Tech is a leverager. Tech is a platform, but our solutions have to be tailored to problems rather than to technology. This has been my huge learning, and it is something that takes a lot of unlearning. Because every time you go to an investor, because every time you go to a grant, they are investing in spaces like, okay, this is for AI or this is for AR or this is for something else, and that puts us in impetus. But women's health is a problem, especially in the South Asian context, which which requires us to think of solutions in a more tech agnostic way and then implement them using tech in different ways. For instance, the femtech market in Europe and US is remarkably different from what we are right now. In the US, like there are femtech companies that have been running around for close to 10 years. They have gone to Series B and Series C even in many cases, same with Europe. In South Asia, that's not the case, and that's because ours is a very, the context changes from region to region and from demographic to demographic. A lot of privileged people, the privilege is not such a homogeneous category in South Asia, and we have to be very intuitive. So when we're talking about being cash positive or when we're talking about running businesses, I think my main concern has always been how do I make a case for women's health in India to make it an investable opportunity. I think that is what we have to think of from the public health perspective, from the business perspective, and it somehow is very difficult because of the market that's out there, because of the ecosystem that's out there, and obviously we have to cater to that. But if we really have to solve the women's health problems in this context, we have to unlearn a lot of the things that the industry is teaching us and think of how we are looking at business. What are we really selling to the people? If we're selling menstrual cups, for instance, what are we really selling? Menstrual cup is not just a product in itself. What we're basically trying to sell is unlearning of something like a virginity myth. It's not easy.
Yeah.
So this is not going to sell like a pad or something. It's not really just a menstrual hygiene product that we're selling. So I think these cultural impetuses have to be very ingrained in the way we are framing a business case. And we, as Gitanjali and others are saying very rightly, it has to be a collaborative effort to make it an investable opportunity. And for that, we have to look at what exactly are we making a sale on. What are we selling to the women we are talking to? What are we selling to the people? And is that really solving a problem? Whether or not it's using a technology. For instance, Vasma spoke about how hers is not really femtech because all she's doing is using an online channel. But I think it is the absolute use of femtech because menstrual cups cannot be sold so much on a chemist shop or in a chemist shop as much as it is sold online and purchased online by women. In India, at least, even though I belong to Delhi, which is like a capital, I tried getting a menstrual cup at a chemist shop. I got the same look that I get when somebody is like buying a condom or something. That, oh my god, this is going to like, where is she going to put this? You know. So yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's the attitude. So I think we have to use technology in a very creative way,
Mm-hmm.
and subvert the technology platforms. We can't use it as we have inherited it because it's so intuitively female. So there's a lot of subversion that we have to do, and we have to be very clear what really are we selling. So I think, yeah, that's all I would like to say.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought the menstrual cup example because even I've used a menstrual cup. I bought it from Recircle. So when I first bought it, I was like, it was a completely unlearning experience of the whole virginity bit, and I had to teach my mother just so I could use it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also, like
Uh,
adding to that, you know, at LUMS we were stocking Recircle cups as well a long time ago, and we realized how a lot of girls wouldn't buy the cup from LUMS; they would still order the cup. So I was just really interested in knowing why they're still ordering when there are cups stocked at LUMS. And I talked to a couple of people, and they were like, "We cannot buy them from the superstore because it's just uncomfortable, and all everywhere people will be like, oh, you're actually using this." So, that I agree with that. Yes.
Gitanjali, you said about ways to collaborate, like you stressed on the importance of collaboration. So, can you tell some of the ways you're using, or we can use some tips on how to extend this or expand on collaboration right now?
Okay. So, a lot of civil bodies who are doing work have already so just join in whatever your community, like we work with women who are pregnant or who are going through women health issues like PCOD and pregnancy. And
Mhm.
mental health is a very, very important thing. So we have collaborated with mental health groups, and wherever we, we try to reduce the burden of rather than build our own expertise. So because we can deal with women health issues, and they can better deal with emotional health issues, so we cross collaborate. So we give our users to emotional health requirement, and the pregnancy and other related issues comes to us. And then so then we are also collaborating with experts a lot, with the the elective surgery, the experts, the nutritionists, the diet, the day itself at 6 o'clock we're going to have a live chat with a nutritionist and about food and other things. So we are collaborating on those levels. We are also corporates and helping in their CSR activities because they also, their people are working from home, they are stressed, they are going through a lot of, so yeah, so these are the ways which, so you just have to be on a lookout. And trust me, any
Yeah.
that I see that seeking collaboration in the domain that I work in, I just say, okay, I'm in, let's talk. So now just talk and talk more.
Yeah. So I want to talk about menstrual disorders. Do you think, and this is just a general question, do you think that will be affected during this pandemic? Will it have a specific effect, menstrual disorders such as endometriosis and PCOS? And how can women deal with that if you have any suggestions?
Yeah, so stress is a very big factor. 70% of hormonal issues like PCOD, endometriosis happen due to lifestyle disorders. And this is the time where it's a very interesting time. We
Yeah.
cannot say that because you're in quarantine and you are at home, a lot of people are enjoying this break also. So it is where you stand. So I would use this platform to appeal to women and tell them that this is a very good time. Be on the right side of the balance, okay? And instead of taking this as a stress time or as a time where you cannot go out for walks or gym and all that, try to do whatever you want can in the house. Keep a positive mind, and Yeah, so but if you are in the crisis of PCOD, like the major pain or some bleeding is happening in endometriosis cases or fibroid cases or tubal block cases, that is a very difficult thing to manage. So the best is to keep few numbers of doctors, either your own doctor whom you know or hospitals or community like us, keep their numbers with you as close as possible on SOS. Just call them, and trust me, there will be a lot of people who will be there to help you. So yeah, so this is about the hormonal health, and mental health will affect it. So take it from a positive, pinch of positive. I know it is difficult. Even I cannot take it positive every time I'm swinging. Like, but yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's anything but realistic. It's just that we need to understand all the issues that you just mentioned. There's endometriosis and all of these. Yes, stress has a huge impact for flare-ups as well, right? So it's just that we do need to consciously, even corona or no corona, happiness is hard work. It's always conscious. I mean, once you're past what you're, once you're past your pre-teens, happiness is always hard work. So you need to, हर वक्त आपको कोई ना कोई तो तंग कर रहा होता है ना, कि कभी अम्मा पापा तंग कर रहे हैं तो कभी कोई तंग कर रहा है, but it's just that you need to figure things out. So this is another opportunity for us to sit and figure things out. And again, another thing that Swarnima mentioned earlier, it is very, very important. It's very easy for women and women's issues to be put at the back burner. Corona or no corona, we see that all the time. So yes, right now a major issue is that of food and how will people be provided, their daily routine stuff and all of that. But it is yet another opportunity for the men folk or patriarchy, even embedded patriarchy within amongst women, to push the women and their issues at the back burner. So we need to really just keep that in mind, that whatever we are facing, if someone is going through, sorry, yeah, someone was saying something. Yeah, so if anyone is going through IVF, Gigi, please.
Maybe please continue. Add one point that year two, I was talking to some people and also reading in, a lot of that work that primary health used to do in these villages or smaller towns, that has been diverted towards coronavirus thing. And the basic task of postnatal care, antenatal care, immunization, that has been derailing. And so those are the areas of concern. I don't know, I'm not the person here, so Arnima is better connected. I would also take this platform and ask you all to check in your also what is the condition, because that is a big cause of worry for me. Because if government is away from these, I mean, they're not shifting the interest, but they're just refocusing towards that these basic things are not made available to people, and this is having a major impact on people's life, for whom this is a matter of life and death. Because in villages or small towns, how high the infant mortality rate or the women death due are high. So I don't know how to deal with it. I'm just keeping it out in the open and see do anything.
You're right, because it is, I mean, we have no option but to because our resources are so meager, I mean, in India especially, our health budget is less than 2% of our GDP, and in many other South Asian countries it's no better, so definitely a lot of primary health care, whether it's mental health, whether it's women's health, it is all being diverted. And another thing is that which we are actually also thinking, especially because you mentioned PCOS and endometriosis and everything, it has so much to do with diet, and now we in the resources that we brought out for women's health, we spoke especially, the reason we spoke about the kitchen aspect and the diet aspect is because a lot of resources are not going to be found now. a lot of people will resort to, like, some kind of junk food which is easy to make, which is like fair, which is fair under the circumstances. But maybe because PCOS and endometriosis has a lot to do with environmental toxins, maybe perhaps it's also a good idea to look at low maintenance, replicable, customizable lifestyle changes, like having brown rice, going to millets, like turning away from, turning towards millets and everything. Because, and this is easy, it's often cheaper, and it's customizable. And I think the crunch of resources and food and the burden of the kitchen is something that is, in fact, more than we can imagine. And of course, in the under-resourced communities, somebody just commented on the Facebook Live that postpartum women are going to take a huge hit. And that is absolutely true. I mean, we are in a space where, forget about mental health. I mean, we don't talk about maternal mental health so much, right? I mean, at least in our public policy, it's a very, like,
postpartum depression is a real thing.
Yeah, like maternal mental health is like, I mean, come on, माँ तो बिल्कुल, मतलब माँ को भगवान बना दो, like, but don't think about the mental health, it's like that.
Exactly.
So, so I think Gitanjali is absolutely right. I think in many ways, I think communities is what is going to salvage us, and a lot of women are actually moving more and more online, including in vernacular places. I'm sure it's a trend in Pakistan as well, because a lot of women are now coming online to ask questions. And they don't have the physical community, or they don't have the physical access. But they're using their mobile phones and asking questions in vernacular. So I think that will be a salvaging, I feel.
I hope no one is getting me, because we're getting a bit long in the time duration. It's everyone okay?
So the telehealth facilities, they're also on the rise here, because a lot of women who, mostly women who became doctors and then they were not practicing otherwise, they've actually resurfaced during these times and they're volunteering their services as also actual clinics. I know of a few clinics who have turned their services online. So there are paid services and there are volunteer free services as well. And these people are volunteering either through within certain Facebook groups or something, or they're standalone. They have separate startups or separate enterprises that are running these things. But that has surfaced a lot here. So I think when you talk about for the rural women's health, yes, exactly. That's what I was going to make a point at, that the rural access of, so because the on ground doctors, if they are being diverted towards corona, and if one plays the devil's advocate, it really does make sense that this is a pandemic and we need to crush it before it crushes us all, right? So they do need to, redirect their services, but whatever can help, these telehealth professionals can probably to some extent take some of that, some of that traffic of people who need help, who are in rural areas, who don't have access. And when you talk about women coming online and reaching out, I think there's been a massive it's skyrocketed in terms of inflow. For instance, even for the breastfeeding mothers that I deal with, if I was getting like 5 or 6 unique cases every day, it's now actually doubled, because even those who are producing enough milk supply, or everything is fine, they're just hyperventilating, they have anxiety attacks, they have panic attacks, that, oh, is my child getting enough, am I doing this right, I can't even go out to get formula. And I'm like, listen, you're doing great, everything is fine. So half the time I'm just calming women down. So it's the impact is phenomenal, and most of it is because of postpartum depression. That comment that we just saw on there, most of it is also coupled with, because your breastfeeding issues come coupled with postpartum depression usually, right? So that's something that is heightening in these times.
So there are a lot of essential products such as birth control and pads are not, going to your critical users. How are you all dealing with the challenges of delivery and supplies? Sadaf, I know that your organization is subscription based, and you also go to schools. And same
Yes.
is with Harim and Swarnima. So how are you, Sadaf? How are you dealing with that?
So yeah, so we are currently we are only ship only in Punjab, and before the corona or before the lockdown, we are serving the whole country. So we are the partnership which we currently doing with the delivery services. They are not working right now due to lockdown. So we hired a private partnership, and we are bearing to half of the delivery charges. We are bearing ourselves because we want to serve our customers, and they need outside to buy the sanitary products. And especially when we all say like the government don't include like the sanitary hygiene products are the need of the every woman, and they don't include in that. Like even though in schools we are working with 7 schools, and we put a stock in the schools, and unfortunately all schools are they are off. And though I was just worried how the girls are managing their periods, and we just say to our trainers in that, okay, how a girls can make a pad their own self through a cotton at home, and they can at least use them in the pandemic time, and they can manage their health rather than worrying about we don't have any pad and we are using rag cloth or like this activities. And it's hard. For I cannot say like we are serving 100%. I think so we are serving at least 30 to 40% right now, to on our behalf we just try to accommodate the audience and they can buy hygiene products.
So you're still delivering?
Yes, we are delivering.
So I read an article.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, no, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So what we did at Dot was, because we were already on a planned break. So our long-term subscriptions, what we did was, when we saw this coming up, we sent. So we, during this transition period, we're not sending the surprise box, but we're continuing sending them the pads that they needed. Right. So and then once we resume, then they get to get whatever number of months were left. They get to redeem those for free as well. So this is an additional thing that we're doing. So when this entire thing of lockdown started up, we actually sent double, triple amounts of pads. So the supplies that could last them 2-3 months, we just bulk sent them stuff. So we're a little more sorted right now in terms of, because that we could have foreseen, the subscriptions that we had on board. We could have foreseen that. What we couldn't manage was people signing up later, like for a month or 2 months. And our yearly, the annual subscription ones, or the 3 months or the 6 months ones, we just sent them their stuff.
So Swarnima, you have an AR based uterus toy. So, and that goes to schools, right?
So what happens
So
is that so it's a different part of our initiative. It's a different arm of what we do. It's not a part of the main selling business that we do, because that's based on a certain kind of barter. And so we have been lucky enough to hit almost like 200 schools before coronavirus. So we're taking a pause from that, obviously. But I am regularly in touch with a lot of school teachers, a lot of young students who are looking for help through our community. So yeah, I mean, we're just changing the way we are trying to give that information for now. And thankfully, that's not part of the main, sort of business model of the revenue.
Yeah.
We haven't taken a huge hit there, thankfully.
So I read an article that said that this is a good time to use reusable menstrual products. And my question to you is, Wasma, do you see any connection between using menstrual cups and corona?
That's one thing that I was also, the time that it came and deliveries were still happening, I was actually encouraging a lot of people to get a menstrual cup. This is the perfect time because you cannot afford to get pads anymore. I mean, afford not financially, but you just physically cannot get them. So I was encouraging a lot of people, but unfortunately, the deliveries that we're getting right now, the orders that we're getting right now, some are still being delivered. We are sending out orders, but problem is the road blockages, and there's a lot of problems in Punjab even for
logistics. Yeah.
So yeah, so unfortunately, we haven't been able to figure out a solution related to that. I think I'll speak to Sadaf about how she's managing her deliveries, because I do think it's the perfect time to switch to a reusable option. Even if it's not a menstrual cup, reusable pads would be so handy at this time, because I mean, what's the other solution that you've got? So yeah.
Okay, so before we end this conversation, just want to ask if anybody has any advice to give to fellow women or fellow femtech startups. Or do you have any questions to ask each other?
Keep buying. I mean, the thing is, even as consumers ourselves, as well as other people who are watching this, if you know another startup or another enterprise who are home-based or something that does not give them security of job or money coming in, this is the time to keep buying and tell them, because this is something that I'm doing myself as well, that I tell them that, oh, you can deliver after all of this is over. I'm all right, but I just want to buy this thing from you. And then by chance, I came across that website as well. So whether or not people register on that website or whatever, just reach out to your favorite brands, lift them up at this point in time, help them, reach out, whatever, if you're working for a charity cause or something of this sort, reach out. I have right now, I have people calling me from all over the world, helping them not only with their lactation journey, but also those who cannot find formula and they want to relactate. In the last week alone, I helped 5 women relactate because there was a shortage of formula and they couldn't feed their babies. So there's, offer your services for free. This will pass. What will remain is that how many lives you touched, how many people you helped. So that's what's going to stay on. This time will pass for sure. Yes, the world will be a very different place on the other side, but let's be on the right side of history.
Does anybody else have any, even if it's just general advice to fellow female startups, female owners, founders?
So I just want to say one thing, like this is the best time to self-evaluate ourselves and the other and the family, even though thinking about the community. And after, even though in this pandemic, like how we can help each other, not like the financially, like maybe someone having any mental situation, you just chit chat with them and, sharing their thoughts and helping each others. And that's also, helping you, like you felt like, oh, finally, like you felt, because you are talking to someone, because you feel sometimes you are also facing the same challenge at that scenario. And my message or like the thought is that just to give time to others, not think about any like money or the happiness or the positive thing you get, because this is the right time to self-explore yourself or making or building a good connections with the people in your surrounding.
So I would say utilize the power of 3 C's: collaborate, communicate, and compassion. So keep communicating to whoever is your, if you are already an entrepreneur, then with your audience, with your investors. I try to make at least 2 calls to new people every day, as in not the complete strangers, but people with whom I have not spoken for a long time or didn't get the time. I just call up, and there are so many new avenues, new ideas of collaboration coming up, that it is interesting to keep a note of it. Also, I would say that, yes, as you rightly said, that this is not the time to earn money or focus on the revenue or even get stressed that the revenue is not coming and how you're going to manage the next few months. but focus more on creating that goodwill, and creating that trust, building that trust. If you are into a B2C, then use that what we call as social currency. So build that social currency, and you can always encash it a little later. Hopefully market will pick up, and so that's a few pointers that I would like to give to other fellow startup entrepreneurs. Please don't get stressed at this point that money is not coming. Money will come in big numbers. Let this get over, and you keep doing what you are doing and you are best at.
Hi, sorry. Because Jaya just messaged and she mentioned that I should mention something about the public health policy. I'll do that in a bit, but I just have a slightly, I won't say it's a contrarian view, but slightly cautionary sort of word, following what Harim and Gitanjali said. It's absolutely true. Right now, all we need is compassion, and all we need is to give and is to focus on community. But my worry always becomes that empathy at home and in business becomes the women's job, and somehow we lose sight of economic goals. This is my worry. I know this is probably not the right time to think about all these things, and but it's I can't help but look at empathy as a very gendered thing. Whether it's in
no, I
business
completely
or
agree with you. Absolutely agree.
like, and I'm just like it's that's my impulse too, that okay, right now just ride it out. Okay, there's a lot of sun there, so yeah, I'm just changing my position. Yeah. So like my impulse is also that okay, focus on community, focus on compassion, and that's all we can do right now. But my concern is that if take our eye off the ball, then it will be a setback. So maybe we can find ways of doing what we're doing right now. Doing what is instinctive to us, which is to think in terms of community and compassion, which is so important and so crucial right now. But also to find a way of looking at what the trends are, looking at what the market is saying. Because as I've written earlier in the chat, now the mHealth space and the digital health space is going to change. It's going to change. We don't know how it's going to change, but it's going to change. And I think it's in our best interest to maybe keep an eye on that. I know it sounds whatever, but I think it's also a responsibility to see that women don't get written out of economic discourse as it just happens, and it is becoming a bit of a concern for me personally. The second thing is about the public health policy that Jaya is mentioning. I've already mentioned that, like especially in India, like there is a lot of public health that goes on, but and there is a lot of even if we look at the SDGs, if you look at the way health is encoded, so there's maternal mortality and there is health and well-being. But if we are not bringing together intersectional and interconnected interventions, if you're not connecting maternal mortality to health and well-being, to gender equality, to poverty, then the problem of women's health will not get solved, because it is not just a public health issue, it's not just an economic issue, it's very much a cultural issue. And that is not just in India and South Asia, it's like all across the world. So, for instance, I think the next big thing that we should prepare for is, ramifications of climate change. And women are, as usual, at the front lines of people who are suffering as a result of climate change, because they are the healthcare decision makers of families and communities. They are also the caregivers, and they are also the procurers of resources and the people who deploy the resources in families and communities. So, looking at the interconnections of the SDGs and looking at the way public health is encoded globally and nationally is something we should be very actively doing. Like, because the language actually determines the funding. Like we can't be surprised that, okay, there is no funding in SRHR if SRHR is not encoded as one of the global priorities. So, I mean, that's how it works, whether it's an investment, whether it's in the non-profit sector, the language and the encoding of policy determines the society's priorities for the next decade. And we have to advocate that we bring gender into it and we bring women's health into it. So I think, yeah, that's all. I hope I did not sound too whatever.
No, that's a
I'm not.
wonderful insight.
No,
Yeah.
see, I think this is very valid, and I think this is a very good reality check, because yes, we all tend to turn very maternal towards situations and turn very empathetic towards things, and that's very natural. That's the feminine way to be. That's the way we are socially conditioned to
Very
Yeah,
valid.
it's even expected of us. Yeah.
just to step forward and take care of everything. So yes, which is why I emphasize that look up other women startups, women based businesses and all of them, and buy from them, empower them economically. Their businesses need to flourish right now. If you're in a place of privilege, then you don't need to pull them into giving charity, right? You need to support their businesses and make their businesses flourish at such a time, so that when we come out the other side, at the other end, then we are in a place where women's businesses have thrived and survived. This is a time when even men are being more empathetic, which is a rare sight. I mean, to be honest, I mean, I will be very honest. It's
They're taking
we
household responsibilities.
distributing stuff and doing all of these things. So we're finding men consort to together and get into things that are empathetic and usually more related to or referred to women for. But this is the time that we need to, then again, like you mentioned, we need to strike a balance. We can't overdo anything, and I think balance is key in all of this.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think, I would say that you're absolutely right about the balance. And I think I was just talking to somebody yesterday, and we were looking at, I don't know how many of you saw the Facebook Live or something that Jacinda Ardern from the New Zealand Prime Minister did a few days ago. She put her toddlers to bed, and then she did a Facebook Live, on FAQs around coronavirus. And I think this is the time to dismantle the male default that is going on
The
in business.
patriarchy.
Yeah, and infuse. No, there is a male default. Like working hours, the networking.
Yeah.
Everything. It's all very. It's a male default, and I think fusing compassion into business could be a leadership method or a leadership model that we should be thinking about. Why not? I mean,
Yeah.
See, that's exactly what a woman brings to a company, to a board. And before starting up, I'm a chartered accountant. I've been working for 20 years in the corporate side, so I'm the one who moved over from there. And the compassion and the feminine traits, the feminine socially conditioned traits, let's say,
Yeah.
are what we bring to the board of directors, to the table on a board, right? So when we can make use of those in those circumstances, I think this is the perfect firefighting situation to bring those into play. That's, I think, that Gitanjali, I hope I'm not overriding what you were saying, but I feel that that's the thing that the
No.
two of us were trying to.
Yeah, so I would like to add that I find creative technology quite comforting at this stage, and that's what we are trying to on the technology, building technology. I never said that don't focus on revenue. Build on that point from where you can leverage the revenue. So us, for my community, compassion works to build that trust converts into monetary revenue. So that was one point. And secondly, what we do on a personal level are women by hiring more women. So in fact, we are about a women team, and we hire women, we train women, we women ambassadors who are paid on commission basis, and then they go out and in the other sectors and spread the word about our work. So yeah, so basically creative and innovative when it comes to revenue. Compassion never says that. I think the of religious places and compassion houses on the most need to fine tune and balance. Yeah,
so
learn.
on that note, I would like to end this live discussion. I just want to thank everyone. I think Vasma has gone offline to click up or number chal gaya tha. But I enjoyed it a lot. This was extremely helpful conversation. And this whatever we've talked about, this information will be available in white paper, and we will share it with all of you.
Hi. Just wanted to thank you all. It's been such a great session. I was listening and taking notes. It's great to hear all of you, and I believe that these conversations we should do over and over again, because there is so much to learn and share and implement. So Sabah and I want to thank you guys. Thank you so much for taking out this time and being a part of this movement. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks for everyone.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Lovely meeting you
Bye-bye.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Same here. Bye. Take care.